Here we go. Time for another sprint zone. This one's for 9/2/2025, and I've got my twin brother with me on this one. There's a little shot of him going by there as I drift back through the pace line. And Paul, why don't you say a little something and let everybody find out who you are?
Well, I'm just happy to be here. I've been watching these sprint zone things for quite a while, and I know on vacation here, I'm just happy to get a chance to share in this experience. Being from Pennsylvania, the air is a little thinner out here, but well, I'm getting used to it.
So what do you think? For those people who do come from sea level, how was the acclimation here?
Well, it actually wasn't too bad, and I know from experience that I adjust much better to altitude than most people. I could feel it a little bit, but I think if I didn't know I was at like 5,000 feet, I wouldn't have noticed much of a difference.
Oh, so you're saying you're like Keegan Swinson.
Well, my name shouldn't even be mentioned in the same sentence with Keegan.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, so like we're heading into the sprint zone a bit early, but this is a chance to take a look and see how the group is doing. You got any opinions on how the group is riding?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty good group. I mean, double pace line is nice. Don't see a lot of people hanging out. I mean, it's one of the better groups I've actually ridden in. So kudos to whoever's putting this together.
Excellent. Thank you. So let's fast forward a little bit because it's kind of a little dry and get to the main event. So we'll fast forward through here. And now we're heading into what we think is the beginning of the sprint zone. Got a couple riders coming off the front, both going to the right. We do that so we never go 3 wide or more than 4 wide, and the pace line never has to change its line and cause problems. I don't know what to do back east, but that's what we do back here. People are looking good here. We got you up at the front, and I don't know if you want to say a little something about your task at the front.
Well, it was kind of fun to be at the front because I know I'm getting some camera time, but I wanted to get off there pretty much as soon as possible before the work started getting really hard. It wasn't hard at this point. In fact, I was actually feeling pretty good. But again, happy to get some camera time.
Yeah, aren't we all? And there's a lot of camera hounds back there. So we're heading into the sprint zone. Oh, I'm wondering. Yeah, I think we're good. Um, Making the right hand turn here. I think life is good. It's always nice when people slow down for this one. And we'll have the Ron cam here shortly as we make the turn. And I'd like to thank Ron for his not only telemetry and his video. And of course, I've got my brother's numbers there also, so we can talk about that. So talk about yourself coming off the front here, maybe.
Yeah, Ron and I had some conversation, and we said, "Hey, this is a good time to get off the front." So I was just happy to slot back in and watch the action. I mean, not being that familiar with the sprint zone starts and finishes, and not being familiar with a lot of the riders there, I just wanted to find a place that's comfortable.
Well done. And it's time to get the party started right. So I'm up there next to Will. We're keeping a reasonable pace. It's like 18 miles an hour. I'm like, yeah, this is okay. And I think that, well, partially if my brother was here, I was thinking, there's no reason to go super hard here. So you're looking at my instantaneous watts, still pretty decent. 280 with a 30-second power, 205, no joke. But then again, not a walk in the park either. And we got Mr. Kennedy hanging out, comes off the front. I'm not certain what he's doing. What do you think, brother?
He's hanging out there a little longer than he needs to. I mean, if he wants to get a little bit of work in, if he was racing, he definitely wouldn't be doing that. But I think he's just taking his good old time, finding a place to slot in.
Yeah, and there's no cars back, so that's fine. Me, myself, I'm pretty lazy. I'm not hanging out any longer. Or maybe it was people didn't want to let him in because there's a lack of respect. There's a lot of the wheel suckers back there. All they care about is their draft. And if the big men come off the front and do their work, they're like, thank you for your service, but I'm not helping you. And maybe there's a little of that going on. Maybe. Anyway, I'm at the front. Will and I are there. We're getting close to the crest of the hill. My 30-second power, 270. That's actually more than I thought it was, B. But we got a good shot of JC behind me. And at this point, I'm pleased that somebody else is willing to take over. I was kind of hoping it wasn't JC and Steve because I was kind of hurting because that's always going to put me in the hurt locker. But better to do that than to be in the front and I get off the front and get myself some energy savings. I slot back in here. I didn't want to get back too far, and whoever was behind me were kind and they let me in. Oh, that's Elisa. And being 4 or 5 back is good. So I kind of appreciate that. Looking at the speed here, 26 miles an hour, average 30-second wattage, like 212. So the game is in fact afoot here. I can see you back there, brother. Got nice little position in the middle of the pack. What are you thinking at this point?
Well, I was just trying to find a place that's comfortable. I didn't really want to get into the mix. I just wanted to be close enough to see it, but and definitely not get spit off the back behind a wheel that was opening a gap.
Yeah, and I'm looking at our 30-second power, being twins and everything, and comparing things, different positions in the pack. Yours is actually a little higher than mine. Your 30-second power, 164. I'm at 120, 130. And you can see that being up at the front, being in the draft is definitely an advantage over some of the yo-yoing that happens back there. But at this point, everybody's strung out. Game is hard. Looking at the Ron camera, you can see it looks like Danny in front of him. Looks like maybe, is it Will, JC, Steve up there? And that's enough for me to be in a perfect position to get the best draft. Not sure what everyone else is thinking, but I think the selection is starting to happen. I can see somebody way off there, and this is what we like to see. We don't want people riding coattails all the way. We'd like them to contribute if they can. But when you have strong men like JC and Steve and Will up at the front, that is going to make things extremely difficult. And so it's better to sit in. I have no thoughts at this point of even going to the front. However, looking at my heart rate of 158, I am extremely comfortable here and could probably have done work at any time. At the front, JC still going hard. Steve right behind him. No one is thinking about going to the front here. The heads of state are all up there, and the selection still has not yet been made. And it looks like looks like Rick back there in the blue has made contact after I thought was the beginning of him being ejected. That's just a testament to how good the draft is and how strong the field has become over these many, many months. I know you're back there, brother, at this point. I'm looking at your power. You got heart rate 164. Mine's 165. Pretty close. Any thoughts about what's happening here?
I'm just sitting in and hoping to not blow myself up. I think it was the first time I did this ride in a while, so I was a little concerned about managing my effort.
And well done, sir. Well done. It's good that you found yourself nicely in the pack. If I recall, the last year when you were here, you got gapped off by Ilka and had some shifting issues with my bike, but I think those have been corrected. As JC comes off the front, Steve Highland taking over, and now the speed has not dropped and the grade has increased. 25, 26 miles an hour. But I am coasting nicely at my 30-second power, only 116, 120. And here's a selection point. People stand up, and you do not want to be back too far here because it's this point where trouble happens. And you can see Steve is a little bit off the front here. Danny lets that little bit of a gap open. Is his trademark style of, oh, something's happening, and then sprinting back up to the wheel, causing problems. And now Daniel coming up, getting a good position. I am more than happy to let him in front of me. I know his pedigree. I know he's willing to do work. I know he would never gap me off in this part of the ride. Looking rearward, no selections being made. I see people drinking on the way back, and I don't know what to think about that at this part of the ride. What do you think, brother?
Well, if you're a good bike handler and you're doing this, it's your experience that I wouldn't do it.
Unless maybe if you're really thirsty.
Yeah, that's what I've been wearing a Camelback. Makes it really easy. Doing a lot of gravel riding stuff. So I've kind of gotten used to that.
Yeah, the Camelback is nice, and it does have an aerodynamic advantage. But you can see most of the hardcore roadies here. I think Isla might have a Camelback, but most of them are old school or don't like anything on their back. Looking rearward here, Elisa looking strong and has found a nice wheel. Joel in the red next to her. Pretty good formation. And I can see you back there, I believe, on the left-hand side or right if you're going with the direction of the road.
Oh, yeah, I might have actually squeezed myself in there.
Jonathan coming up, looking strong. And at this point, I thought he was riding pretty well. So I figure Jonathan leads the Monday rides, the recovery rides on the Rio team. I will let him, I use the words, let him take the good wheel. Danny comes off the front, and then I kind of slot in. Pretty comfortable here. Heart rate 159, extremely comfortable for myself, and just enjoying the draft and not having to have worked too hard up to this point. So I think my chances are good. Will coming up there nicely, coming up on the right. It looks like, is it Danny up at the front, working hard. Daniel looks like second position. Steve Highland and Jonathan there in the red. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. Let's take a look at my power numbers. Oh, look, our heart rates are almost identical. 158, 159, 160. Look, they are tracking almost one for one. This is definitely a twin thing, and surprising that you've come from altitude and that you've acclimatized so quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I was looking at that and just seeing how they were tracking. Even though you're producing a lot more wattage than I am for the same speed, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I need to like put our critical power curves up there, and that'd be kind of interesting to see what's going on. Different bikes and different power meters. Who knows? Same, well, different heart rate monitors, but that doesn't really matter, does it? Anyway, it looks like we're getting close to the final push here. Heart rate now 168, speed 27 miles an hour, and it's time for the final push. And here we go. Jonathan, who had let in front of me, unable to hold the wheels, and I am left with a gap in front of me that I have to close. Well, I was not happy about this one. Joel trying to close the gap, unable to do that. I was hoping to be able to ride his wheel up to the top, and I'm like, he's not going to be able to do it, so I've got to go here. 30-second power, 330, instantaneous power, over 400 watts, as JC and Danny are able to close the gap. And now we switch to the Ron cam. I'm struggling there. My Teletubby thing is all over the top of my head. At this point, heart rate 175. I am on the rivet and don't really have anything to be able to push any further here, as I am indeed in the wind. Your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, interesting. Our heart rates are still up there, almost identical at that point. And I know I was suffering. I was a little bit back behind you, I believe, and I think I was behind Alicia, but just happy to have survived that.
Yeah. Look at the Ron camera. Ron comes through pretty nicely. It looks like he might made the top 5 on this one. Well done, Ron. Well done. I guess we'll talk a little bit more about your power, but those people can look at that, and it was a safe one. Well done, everybody, and a good time was had by all. And any closing words, brother?
I'll just say ditto. Good time was had by all.
Yeah. And here we go. We make this little turnaround. Looking at the Ron cam. Pleased to be here. Yeah, you want to sing a little something, brother?
No, not today.
Not today? Yeah. Next week, I'll be talking more about stuff. Shout out to Marcelo, who was wearing the DIPG kit. It's the charity ride that he always does. For the next video, I'll have a picture of Marcelo and a picture of, and maybe a link to that event. But I'm mentioning here early, so that you look out for that in the next coming show. Woohoo! Party time!
It's a wrap.
Peace.